One of the most important things that analysts do is to forecast. And so we've talked about forecasting error. Now we need to talk about some different forecasting techniques that are available to you. There are three major, I guess we'll call them families. One of them is this idea of a moving average. Then there's exponential smoothing. And then the last one is linear regression. So what we're going to do is go through those families and show you just quickly how to do the forecasting. We're using the data again that we've seen before, 16 months worth of data. We have the forecast and we have the actual. First thing that you need to do is go ahead and add your time series so that we can keep track of this. And then this idea of a moving average is let's forecast in the future an average of what has happened in the past. So let's take, first of all, let's take a 2-month moving average, because it says that if I take what actually happened in the 2 previous months, I can forecast for the next month, right? If I take the average of the previous 2 actuals, I can come up with a value for what's going to happen here. Now, again, you see that I can't start until, using this data, I can't really start until March of 24 because I have to use 2 months worth of data to get started. All right, so that's a 2-month moving average. Same thing would be, the same concepts applied with a 3-month moving average, right? If I take the average of the previous 3 months, then I can predict what's going to happen here. Again, usually also when we're doing forecasting, things that happen in whole numbers, we take and we make it to where these really should be whole number estimates. All right. Now, once we have these in here, we could take and extend this all the way down. And we can extend this all the way down. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that these all have correct number of formats. And then the last thing that we have is this idea of a 1-month moving average. Now, 1-month moving average really says if I took the average of just the previous month, right, it's just the previous month. So a 1-month moving average is also what we call a naive forecast. The naive forecast says, let's predict this month whatever happened last month. I know it seems very simplistic. We use it all the time, right? Whenever the boss comes in and says, you know, how many are we going to sell this week? You say, how many did we sell last week? So again, this is a naive forecast and it is used frequently. All right, so that's moving average. You see how to manage that. The next thing that is being used is what we call an exponential smoothing. And exponential smoothing is nothing more than a weighted average of give me a percent of what actually happened and whatever is left over of this alpha times the previous forecast. All right, so if I have an alpha of 0.2, it says on my forecast, tell me 20% of what actually happened in the previous plus 0.8 times what my previous forecast was. So again, I can't do a single exponential smoothing for this very first month. However, I can say equals 0.2 times the actual plus 1 minus 0.2, which is 0.8 times the forecast. All right, very, very, very similarly, you can see if we took our alpha up to 0.4, then it would just be 0.4 times the actual plus 1 minus 0.4, which is 0.6 times the forecast. All right. From there, you could go ahead, take and extend these as well. And then lastly, linear regression. With linear regression, we've talked about that before. All we're going to do this time is we're going to take and use all of our data and forecast what the next value would be using linear regression. You know how to do that, so I'll let you do that on your own. But this gets us started with forecasting. There are shortcuts inside of Excel. You can go into the data analysis. Inside data analysis, moving average is an option for you here. As a matter of fact, if I click on moving average and I tell moving average that this is what I'm interested in, I have labels in my first row. This interval says what is the number of months that you're looking at. All right, so let's use a 2-month moving average. And then I'm going to have it just do the output down here. If I click OK, hopefully what happens is we see that the forecast is 631 for March 24th, 640. All right, things are in there. Similarly, you can go to data analysis and put in exponential smoothing. And in exponential smoothing, you can specify your range. The damping factor is your alpha level. And then along with your alpha level, you can specify where we're going to put this at the end. Oh, it says there's a non-numeric number in there because of the way that that we had put that in there because I didn't click this as labels, and now it pushes this out. You may notice that whenever you run this, that there is Excel starts off with using 592 as the base number instead of the 593.6 that we calculated. It's a very small difference in the way that it's done, that Excel runs it, and you will see that by the time you get to the end that it all washes out, or almost all washes out anyway. All right, hopefully you now know how to use these 3 different families to do your forecasting.